Today, I'll be talking to two guests that are shaking up the part of the auto industry that has been hiding in plain sight. It's smart, it's scalable, and it solves a massive pain point for dealers. Signal Technology is the first and only vertical integrated platform helping Canadian dealers fully unlock the US wholesale market. A $15 billion opportunity that's long been underutilized. Their technology eliminates the friction in cross-border vehicle exporting by combining real-time market data, remarketing, finance, insurance, and import logistics all in one place. With more than 70 automotive and technical experts, Signal helps dealers capture an extra $2,000 to $5,000 profit per vehicle and tap into a market where over 350,000 vehicles cross the Canadian-US border every year. Let's get into how they do it and what it means for the future of retail and wholesale operations on both sides of the border. Welcome to The Fuel Line, where we explore all things automotive with a focus on mergers and acquisitions. Hi, my name's Fareed Ahmed. I'm the founder and the CEO of DSMA and your favorite podcast host. Each episode, we connect with influential figures that drive the automotive landscape. Let's shift into gear and get started. So today I'd like to introduce you to two co-founders of an organization called Signal. Steve, Tane, welcome to The Fuel Line.
Thank you for having us today. Thanks, Fareed.
Our pleasure. So let's get straight into it. And I've got a question we solicit questions from our audience. And so I'm just going to be going through some of them with you. So the first question that somebody requested me getting the answer is, tell us about your story. How did Signal begin? What was the vision? What was the concept? And why now?
So appreciate the time and the opportunity to come and speak with you today. We started Signal back in late 2017. We had both just sold prior tech businesses and we were looking for something to do together. And so we decided to start this business. Well, we'd uncovered this crazy category in the automotive space called exporting. And as Fareed had mentioned, there's 350,000 vehicles a year that cross the border into the US. What we found, though, there was no technology underpinning that category. So we set out to build a software platform that would completely automate every aspect of this ecosystem. And that's what we've done.
Tony, let me ask you a question. It actually confounds me. Such a large business, a $15 billion opportunity, but most Canadians haven't tapped into that. Why do you think that is?
Well, like you said, Fareed, it's an industry that's been around for a long time, 30 plus years, but it's been such a opaque process that what we've found, particularly in the past couple of years, is every franchise dealer that we speak to in Canada has heard of export. None of them thought that they could do it, right? It required expertise and dedicated resources and lots of learnings and risk and things like that. And what we found is if we provide all the tools and package them up in a way that makes it really easy for a Canadian dealer to participate in the US market, that's going to really benefit their business, right? So when we speak to these dealers and they're making, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more per vehicle on wholesale, that changes the face of the dealer's business. They can close more new car deals because they can offer more on trade-ins. Their wholesale profit jumps through the roof, and all of this is profit that goes straight to the bottom line.
Fantastic. Now, you guys have got a proven track record of generating anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a Canadian vehicle going into the United States. Can you tell the audience what type of vehicles this program works for, and maybe even what kind of vehicles that this program doesn't work for? Because I think there's a lot of interest in how do I make money exporting my vehicles into the United States?
Yeah, really, really good question. If you look at both the Canadian and US economies, the used car market, 70% of vehicles in both markets are pickup trucks and SUVs, right? Pickup trucks and full-size SUVs. It's the same type of product that we see across the border. So we see a lot of domestic vehicles go across the border. You see a lot of vehicles that were built in the US that make sense to export into the US. I think one of the keys is not just identifying, okay, this is an F-150 that makes sense to export to the US, but understanding what price to put on that. So we've done a ton of work with data on the US side to understand, hey, how can we put the most accurate wholesale values on vehicles in the US so that when a Canadian dealer is asking whether or not they should export this vehicle, we can say with a really high degree of confidence, yes, you should export this vehicle, and here's how much you stand to gain on that particular vehicle. And that's a really eye-popping exercise for dealers to understand, hey, if I export this vehicle, I can make $5,000 more.
Now, Canadian dealers are typically much more conservative than most dealers. If you were speaking to a Canadian dealer, and I know you speak to 20 a day, when they get concerned about all the logistics of getting a car across the border, the insurance, the getting the clocks changed over and the correct importing, how have you solved that side of the business problem?
Well, it's interesting. I think Steve said it earlier in the conversation. When we started Signal, we learned by doing this ourselves. In the early days, we bought and sold vehicles to understand all the pain points for folks participating in this market. We bought and sold $500 million worth of cars ourselves. And learned everything there is to know. So when it comes to the compliance thing, one of our early learnings was there's no visibility, right? So if I'm a Canadian dealer and I want to hand over $500,000 worth of cars to export to the US, you want to know where they're going. You want to know where they're at in that export process. You want to know they're in a safe and secure facility. So we gained a lot of expertise on managing the compliance process. But I think more importantly, on top of that, the compliance is pretty straightforward once you get a handle on it. But giving the dealer the peace of mind of knowing that, hey, your assets are in a safe place, they're under control, I have visibility and transparency in that process is really key.
That's fantastic.
And I'll just add, one of the key parts to that is for a dealer to export, there's nothing they need to do outside of our platform to be successful.
That's incredible. So, Steve, a follow-on question. We're going through some very interesting times right now in the economy. We have tariffs. We have interest rate challenges. You guys have found a way to go around these concerns and provide such excellent service to these Canadian dealers. And I'm sure those Canadian dealers speak to you about their fears and concerns and valuations. How have you done that? And how did you know that this was the path that you were going to go down?
That's a great question. We started this quite some time ago, and obviously when we did start it, we've gone through a lot of different economies over the last 8 years. Now we're in a reasonably, there's a certain amount of uncertainty happening in today's world. We get asked about tariffs every single day. Thankfully, the bulk of the vehicles that traverse our platform are called U.S. returning goods. And so those are vehicles that start with a 1, a 4, or a 5 VIN. And they are completely tariff-free because they're U.S. goods. And tariffs are based on country of origin, not country of export. And so with that, we're still able to get those vehicles across the border without any challenges. We're living in an FX world today where the Canadian dollar is not super strong, and that certainly helps the business that we're in and enables us and our dealers to export a lot of vehicles and make really, really good money. The other thing that we've done is we want to take all of the risk out of this for our dealers. So we have programs, for example, we have a program called Remarketing Advance, where we actually give a dealer up to 85% of the U.S. wholesale value on the vehicles that they ship as soon as they cross the border.
That's crazy.
It completely removes all of their risk, and it makes sure that we are highly motivated to transact that vehicle. It's a flat fee program. It's no interest. There's no loan agreements. It's very, very simple to participate in.
So maybe let's talk about the kind of dealerships in Canada where maybe this program would not be suitable for. Are there any barriers to entry working with Signal for organizations? Do they have to be a certain size? Is too small? Maybe you could give some light on that for our audience.
I think, the barriers to entry, we've been able to lower them drastically. So I think I said earlier, every dealer in Canada is familiar with export, and probably 2% of those dealers participated. And those 2% had to build expertise and hire export departments, right, to run these programs. And all the revenue that was flowing through those export programs was tied up with 1 or 2 experts within a dealership, right? And if that expert leaves, then the revenue line goes to zero, and that's a massive risk. And so one of the things I think about with Signal and for our dealers is we provide an export department in a box. So whether you're a small dealer that exports a couple cars a month, or you're a big GTA,
Yes.
like big franchise store that moves a lot of vehicles, you can still participate in the program. It doesn't change the per unit economics.
Sure.
They stay consistent, right? Yeah. What we see in the export space is most dealers, for logistics, they transact in like transporter loads of vehicles. So 5, 6, 7 vehicles on a transporter. It's just cost and time effective. So if you want to say a limitation, like we see most people do a load of vehicles at a time, not one vehicle at a time. But no, as far as kind of the size and makeup of dealers, we deal with the big stores in the GTA, and we deal with rural domestic franchises across the country.
There's obviously a correlation between wholesale and the new car business of a new car dealer. Now, you were discussing earlier with me about some of the benefits to a dealer's new car business. Maybe you want to share with the audience, what are some of these benefits you were discussing?
Yeah, really, really good question. I think there's a few different ways that you can help drive more new car sales for dealers. And even when we speak to new car dealers, one thing that they make very clear is like, I'm not an exporter, right? The funny thing is, whether you like it or not, you're participating in this ecosystem, because if they're not an exporter, they're selling vehicles to an exporter who's then shipping the vehicles and making the money. And so when we talk to new car stores about how to boost new car sales, the first and most obvious is pricing trade-ins, right? So if I need to step up another $1,000, $2,000 on a vehicle to close a new car deal, you have the confidence to do that, because by tapping into the U.S. export market, you're going to get the top dollar. Sure. And if you're doing it not through a middleman, that allows you to step up that much more, right? So that's the most obvious one. And I was speaking with a dealer yesterday that said, I don't care about making more wholesale gross, but if it means 15 more new car deals at the end of the month for me, that's a huge revenue driver, because then you're getting your front end, you're getting your back end, your F&I. And so that's the most obvious one. On the couple other areas that we see dealers benefit new car sales, one, pricing service lane vehicles, right? Vehicle comes in the service lane, let's give them a really strong offer, buy their used car off them, export it, but then put them in a new car. Yes. Right? More new cars. And then the last one is what we call equity mining. But if I'm a dealer and I'm looking at, a fleet or a lease portfolio, and I can analyze that batch of inventory, understand where it makes sense to pull the consumer out of that lease early, put them in a new car, take the lease return, ship it down south. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can leverage export specifically to drive more new car sales.
So Steve, question to you. Where do you see the future of Signal? Is this going to be a marketplace? Is this going to be a transactional platform? Maybe you could share a little bit with the audience as to where Signal is going.
It's all of that, right? We are a complete vertical platform from start to finish. Again, like I said earlier, everything a dealer needs to be successful is already embedded into our platform, from the compliance, from insurance to financing to remarketing to everything that they can possibly need. Our goal, there's 3,457 new car dealers in Canada. We want to be able to get out there and speak to every one of those dealers. It's not going to be something that works for everyone, but it's going to be something that works for most. And if we can help a new car dealer add $1 to $2 million per year in bottom line profit, that is monumental.
Very much so. It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. And then we can really help them drive success. It's also a program that doesn't take months or years to implement. We have dealers today where we'll speak to them on a Monday. They'll be shipping their first load on a Friday. It can happen that quickly.
Wow.
And we can get those results.
One other question that we received was, how does this impact any warranties on new vehicles going into the United States? Do you want to touch on that maybe yourself as to what happens to the warranty of that vehicle going into the US?
Yeah, good question. Most warranties transfer. So Ford, GM, those are the most commonly exported vehicles. The notable brand that doesn't is Stellantis. And so their warranties of Canadian vehicle will not transfer into the US. Interestingly, we still see a lot of that type of product get brought in. And in one of two cases, right? The vehicle's older than 3 years, it's going to be out of warranty anyways, right? And so it's a non-issue. And then for the closer to new product, a lot of dealers in the US are perfectly comfortable just putting an aftermarket warranty on that same car. Right?
They don't care.
They don't care. These vehicles still cross the border.
Well, why should they? I think honestly. So, last question. I promise you guys, I've been bombarded with questions. Let's say I'm a Canadian dealer today. I sign up and I've got 8 cars ready to go. Give me an idea on timelines of leaving my dealership and when I see the money in the bank. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that.
We do what's called load building.
Okay.
And so it's, again, built into our platform. They could click on a bunch of vehicles and hit build load, and that just kicks off the process. So if you build a load today, we'll have a transporter to pick up those vehicles tomorrow or the next day.
You organize transportation and everything?
We arrange that for the dealers.
Okay.
We have preferred vendors that this is all they do. So those transporters come up and pick those vehicles up tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
They'll be in our import facility within 24 hours of being picked up, and then the clock starts ticking. There is a 30-day holding period, and once the vehicles arrive in the US, they have to be conformed to DOT standards, which is pretty straightforward. It just means changing the speedo from kilometers to miles and certifying it. We go apply for a fresh US title on every vehicle. So having a vehicle that can be sold with title in hand is a very big deal in the US.
Huge.
Titles are a nightmare. Huge. And then we go through the remarketing process. Our goal is to have 2/3 of the vehicles that we ship sold on day 30. And we typically have 100% of them sold within 45 days.
That's fantastic. And the funds arriving back in the dealer's bank?
Correct.
Yeah, and so there's a couple different machinations, but the most common setup we see for dealers is once those vehicles land at our import facilities, we advance 85% of the U.S. wholesale value. So they have their money back in their pocket on day 2 of this 30-day journey. And then we run the vehicle through our remarketing programs. It finishes the import cycle. We sell the vehicles. And then we, remove the fees. We don't do it for free, and give the dealer the remaining profits. Right. So it's not a burden on cash flow, but it is definitely an opportunity to realize more profit.
So, fun fact: what cars do you guys drive?
I have about 12.
Okay, good for you.
I have everything from...
Your favorite of the 12?
I have a 911 GTS, which I like. I have a McLaren Senna GTR, which sits in my garage. And probably my favorite car right now, an old International Scout that is being rebuilt in Los Angeles right now with a new Corvette crate engine, etc. So good fun.
Good for you. And yourself?
I don't have 12 cars. I have a BMW M5 Competition.
Oh, good for you. Great vehicle.
Awesome car.
Awesome.
I have 1.5 car seats crammed in there, so probably don't see too many M5s with the car seat. And then my wife has an XC90. Just quick funny story. I found out recently my wife's senior year of high school yearbook, she was voted most likely to crash into a pole. And so we got her a new XC90 and she crashed into a pole.
No. Oh my God.
So my 2-year-old thought it'd be funny to put a Band-Aid over the dent on the car. So 6 months later, the Band-Aid's still there.
Guys, I can't thank you enough for stopping by. I know how busy you are. I know you're about to jump on a flight from here. Really appreciate it and educating. And how does anybody that's interested contact you guys to learn more? Easiest way is through our website at signal.vin. .vin, wow, okay.
Signal.com was taken.
Well, thank you, guys. Well, guys, I hope this segment was informative. It's a very exciting business, and dealers that are involved in the wholesale and export of vehicles, I know personally, are doing extremely well. My name's Fareed Ahmed, your favorite podcast host. If you like this show, please like, share, and tell your friends about us. And I hope to see you on our next episode of The Fuel Line.